3 weeks ago, I traveled home from the Central African Republic. I was full of joy and amazement. Joy from loving on orphan kids, assembling Christmas packages, visiting hand-in-hand orphan schools, seeing our sponsored child again, and amazement at having seen firsthand the difference we as a church family are making for a lot of orphans and widows in the CAR. We spent much of our time at the Project Hope and Charity Orphan Care Center. This is where the sponsorship branch of PHC's ministry takes place. Hundreds of orphans come here every day for school, lunch, medical care, and a lot of intangibles that make all the difference. Love, safety, security, and Jesus. And any time I looked out on a crowd of kids, I knew that some of those smiling faces belonged to Eastside sponsors. One of our jobs was to take photos of as many of the 900 orphans in the sponsorship branch of PHC's ministry as possible. As children handed me their cards on which their names appeared with their sponsors' names, I was amazed at how many sponsors I knew. In our Eastside family are sponsors of over 60 children. Each of their smiles are in a real way an extension of us in Africa, and I never got tired of seeing them. A highlight for me was meeting the orphan Jerry and I sponsor, Petula. When we first met her 2 years ago, she was very shy and never smiled. After 2 years of feeling safe and loved, she is now a joyful little girl with a radiant smile. But a second branch of PHC's ministry this year has allowed our church to extend our help to orphans who live far away from the PHC Center. 2 hours north of Bangui, in a village named Bosambeli, is our sister church, the Bosambeli Grace Brethren Church. This year, we are partnering with this church to educate and feed 50 orphans. These orphan schools, called hand-in-hand schools, target orphans who, unlike our sponsor kids, live too far from the PHC Orphan Center to be cared for there. Visiting our hand-in-hand school was a definite highlight for me. Teacher Kevin is amazing. He's a great teacher and really cares about his students, and it's obvious that they love and respect him. I was overwhelmed with emotion as I sat in our school and observed all that our orphans had learned in just 2 short months of school. More than learning the 3 R's, they are also learning about Jesus. They are learning that they are loved by God and that their future is bright. What a joy it was to realize that God is combining this African church's heart for orphans and Eastside's willingness to help them make such a difference for so many. Through us, these children have a trained and highly qualified teacher, educational materials like a chalkboard, slates, reading primers, and reading charts, which Eastside helped to color a few years back, lunch every day, and solid instruction in the Word. My visit to our hand-in-hand school followed Scott DeMarco's visit 2 weeks before. While Scott was there in November, he gave each child a toothbrush and toothpaste and a pencil bag. Scott had the privilege of giving them out, but I had the privilege of watching them being used and treasured. It is obvious the children view these as precious possessions. And thanks to the giving of Eastside Sunday School children, I purchased and presented to each of our orphans an African version of a Happy Meal, a can of sardines. It is impossible to describe how thrilled our children were when they realized the box I had was filled with cans of sardines and that they would each receive one. I marveled that a small thing like this could mean so much to our African family. Pastor Dole of our sister church at Bosambeli asked me to pass along to the Eastside Grace Brethren family his sincere gratitude. He expressed his appreciation for partnership in helping them do the work God has called their congregation to do in their community, to care for orphans. He wants you to know that he prays for us, which reminded me of our responsibility to pray for them as well. The third branch of PHC's ministry targets widow care providers of PHC orphans in Bangui. These widows have so little but give so much. PHC is helping these women cash in on their one marketable skill, farming. Our team visited PHC's 50-acre widow farm And while we were impressed by the widows' gardens, we were even more impressed with them, with their joy, their strength, and with their pleasure of being together. Visiting their garden was a real highlight. I traveled thousands of miles to get to Africa, but the East Side family was close by me every day, in the smiles of our sponsored orphans, in the reading charts we colored years ago, which are now teaching orphans to read, in the faces and skills of hand-in-hand teachers trained through the literacy program we supported in the late 90s. I wonder if our greatest impact on Africa is not yet to come, when our orphans, whether sponsored kids or those in our hand-in-hand school, become adults and take their love for God and pursuit of excellence to their families, churches, jobs, society, and the world. Now, that's a picture.